For more than 2 months at a time, a U.S. Navy nuclear submarine can disappear beneath the ocean with more than 100 sailors sealed inside. Once the hatches close and the submarine dives, the crew loses the things most people use to measure an ordinary day. There are no windows, no sunlight, no fresh air from outside. The ocean surrounds the boat in every direction, while hundreds of feet of water separate the crew from the surface. Inside, the submarine has to create almost everything its crew needs to survive. The air has to be continuously managed. Drinking water has to be produced. Food has to last for months. Every sailor needs a place to sleep, eat, work, exercise, and eventually rest again, all inside a vessel where space is measured in inches. And the submarine never simply stops being a submarine. While some sailors sleep, others stand watch. While one crew eats, another is working. Machinery continues running around the clock, and maintenance never disappears from the schedule. For the people inside, this isn't a short mission measured in hours or days. A patrol can last roughly 70 to 90 days without the submarine surfacing. So the real challenge isn't just keeping the submarine underwater. It's keeping the people inside it healthy, alert, fed, rested, and ready for months at a time. And that begins with something most people never think about. How do you build an entire livable world inside a steel tube with no windows and no sunlight? Once the submarine settles into its patrol, the crew has to turn this confined steel vessel into something that can function as a home. The first challenge is sleep. A sailor finishing a watch doesn't return to a private bedroom. He heads toward a narrow bunk surrounded by machinery, pipes, cables, and the constant sounds of the submarine operating around him. Space is limited, so sleeping arrangements are designed around the crew's watch schedule. While one group rests, another is already working. The same pattern continues hour after hour. Then there is food. A submarine carrying more than 100 sailors has to bring enough supplies to support the crew for weeks at sea. Early in a deployment, fresh foods can be available, but as the patrol continues, storage becomes increasingly important. Meals have to be planned around different watch schedules because someone is working while another sailor is eating or sleeping. The galley becomes one of the most important places on the boat. It isn't simply where sailors get their meals. Food is also part of maintaining morale during a deployment where almost every aspect of normal life has been replaced by routine. Water presents another problem. The submarine cannot rely entirely on the limited freshwater it carries from port. Systems on board can produce freshwater from seawater, providing the crew with water for drinking and other essential needs. But that doesn't mean sailors can use it like they would at home. Showers are short. Water conservation matters. Laundry and sanitation have to be carefully managed. Even something as ordinary as taking a shower becomes part of the submarine's operating routine. And beneath all of this is a simple reality. There are no convenience stores, restaurants, bedrooms, or repair shops waiting outside. Everything the crew needs has to be stored, produced, maintained, or repaired inside the submarine. For months, this narrow steel world has to provide the essentials of everyday life. But food, sleep, and water are only the beginning. Because before the crew can live underwater for months, the submarine has to solve an even more fundamental problem. How do more than 100 people keep breathing when there is no outside air? The submarine can carry enough food and water for a long patrol, but none of that matters without one thing: air. More than 100 sailors are continuously consuming oxygen and producing carbon dioxide inside a sealed environment. So the submarine has to manage its atmosphere every hour of the day. Seawater can be processed on board to help produce oxygen, while specialized systems remove carbon dioxide from the air. The atmosphere is continuously monitored because maintaining the right balance isn't something the crew can simply check once and forget. And the nuclear reactor plays a critical role in making this possible. Unlike a conventional ship that depends on frequent fuel logistics, a nuclear submarine can generate enormous amounts of power for propulsion and onboard systems. That electricity supports many of the systems that allow the crew to remain underwater for extended periods. But keeping people alive is only one part of the challenge. The crew also has to work. There is no sunrise telling sailors that a new day has started. Instead, Artificial lighting and carefully organized watch schedules divide life into work periods, meals, and sleep. A sailor may finish a watch while most of the submarine is asleep. Another sailor takes over, and the cycle continues. For the crew, this creates a strange relationship with time. There is no morning commute, no evening rush, and no view outside the window. The same steel corridors can feel almost identical whether it is 3 in the afternoon or 3 in the morning. Yet the submarine cannot slow down. Engineers continue monitoring machinery. Sailors maintain equipment. Watch teams operate the boat. Communications and navigation systems remain active, and countless routine tasks continue throughout the patrol. When sailors aren't working, they still need to maintain themselves. Exercise, recreation, reading, movies, games, and conversations with other crew members provide a break from the repetitive routine. These small activities become important because the submarine isn't just a warship anymore. For months at a time, it is the sailor's entire world. And that creates a challenge no reactor or life support system can completely solve. Because keeping a submarine operational is one thing. Keeping the people inside it mentally prepared for months without sunlight, privacy, and home is something else entirely. After the first few days underwater, the submarine's routine begins to feel normal. The same corridors, the same machinery, the same watch schedule, the same artificial lights. But the human mind doesn't adapt to isolation as easily as a machine adapts to a routine. For sailors on a long patrol, one of the biggest challenges is being separated from the world they left behind. There is no quick trip home, no weekend away, and no stepping outside for fresh air. Family birthdays, holidays, important events, and ordinary moments on land can all happen without them. Communication with home can also be limited by the submarine's operating requirements. The crew may spend long periods with little or no direct contact with family, making the separation feel even longer. Inside the submarine, privacy is another luxury. Hundreds of people may share a vessel where corridors are narrow, living spaces are compact, and almost every part of the ship has a specific purpose. Sailors learn to respect personal space because everyone around them is dealing with the same conditions. That is why morale becomes part of the mission. Exercise provides a way to stay physically healthy. Movies, books, games, conversations, and shared meals give sailors a break from their duties. Even small celebrations can become important reminders of life beyond the submarine. But the crew also has to be prepared for moments when routine suddenly disappears. A fire, flooding, medical emergency, or serious equipment problem cannot be handled by simply waiting until the submarine reaches the nearest port. The crew trains repeatedly for emergencies because, hundreds of feet below the surface, there may be no outside help available within minutes. Every sailor has a role. Every procedure has a purpose. And every person depends on the others to perform correctly when something goes wrong. For the captain, that responsibility becomes even heavier. The captain has to manage the ship, the mission, and the people living inside it, often while dealing with fragmented sleep and constant demands for information and decisions. The submarine's technology can produce oxygen, fresh water, electricity, and propulsion, but it cannot produce patience, discipline, or trust. Those have to come from the crew. And after weeks of darkness, repetition, and isolation, the patrol eventually reaches the moment everyone has been waiting for. The submarine begins preparing to return to the surface. Weeks have passed since the submarine disappeared beneath the ocean. The routines that once felt unusual have become ordinary. The same watches continue. Meals are prepared. Machinery is maintained. Sailors sleep when their schedules allow. And the submarine continues moving through an environment most people will never experience. But eventually, every patrol reaches the same point, the return home. For the crew, surfacing isn't simply the end of a mission. It is the moment an entire world they have temporarily left behind begins to return. After weeks without natural sunlight, the first view of the surface can feel completely different. The ocean horizon is visible again. Natural light replaces the artificial lighting that has illuminated their days and nights. And somewhere beyond the submarine is the world they left months earlier. But returning to land doesn't instantly erase the experience. The crew has spent an extended period living according to submarine routines, sharing confined spaces, working rotating watches, and depending on one another every day. What makes these patrols remarkable isn't simply the nuclear reactor, the sophisticated technology, or the ability to remain underwater for months. It's the fact that an entire crew can transform a sealed steel vessel into a functioning home. They produce their own air. They make their own water. They store and prepare their own food. They sleep in compact spaces. They work around the clock. And they maintain the discipline required to keep everything operating thousands of miles from an ordinary life. The submarine may disappear beneath the ocean, but the people inside never stop living. They celebrate birthdays. They share meals. They exercise. They work, rest, talk, laugh, argue, and wait for the day when the hatch will finally open again. For months, the outside world may barely see them. Yet beneath the ocean, these sailors continue operating one of the most complex machines ever built. And when the submarine finally returns to port, the mission may be over. But for the crew, the experience remains. Because for 3 months, the submarine wasn't just where they worked. It was the only world they had.